Picture this. A couple in Montreal buys a home. Renovations start, new rooms, nicer finishes, even work in the garage. The checks that pay the contractors come from two small corporations controlled by the husband. Years later, the Canada Revenue Agencies asked the wife to cover part of the husband's tax debt because those renovations increase the value of her house. Hi, I'm Amandeep Singh from Cloud River CPAs in Burnaby. Here's the story of what the tax court so far has found in Panneton versus the King. It's a 2024 Tax Court of Canada case and the practical lessons for business owners. Diane Panneton owned the house. Her husband, Yvon Charbonneau, ran two corporations, GAM and PAM. The key years are 2002 to 2004. During that time, GAM wrote checks totaling $83,000 and PAM wrote checks totaling $57,000, together $141,000, flowed to a third-party supplier for goods and services tied to work at Diane's house. Diane provided limited consideration, about $9,800 in rent. CRA later issued a Section 160 assessment asking Diane to pay $131,000 as value received from a tax debtor spouse. Section 160 works like this in plain language. When a person who owes tax shifts value to the spouse or certain related person for less than fair value, CRA can collect from the recipient to the value they received. The transfer can be indirect. Money does not have to pass through the spouse's hands. Paying third parties for the spouse's benefit still counts. At trial, only Yvon testified for Diane. A CRA officer testified for the Crown. The court framed one question. Did Yvon transfer directly or indirectly $141,000 of value to Diane? The other elements, Yvon's tax debt, spousal relationship, and the more value received than given part was already accepted by both sides. What evidence carried weight? First, who got paid and why? The checks from GAM and PAM went to suppliers that looked like home improvement and lifestyle vendors. Names such as Club Piscine, Cadres, Experts, Sensation, Musical, and Creations de la Gente Inc. This supported a picture of real renovations at Diane's residence. Second, how the companies recorded things. If the basement or garage truly served as business space, you would expect to see leasehold improvements capitalized on the corporate balance sheets. The records for GAM did not show leasehold improvements, and PAM's filings for these years were late and showed no revenues or expenses. This accounting gap weakened the idea that the spending was business driven. Third, control and practical banking. Yvon controlled both corporations, had no personal bank account in those years. The court found it likely he used the corporate bank accounts to make payments that benefited the household, which linked the corporate outflows to his personal sphere. And fourth, credibility and missing witnesses. The story about business use renovations surfaced late and limited support in the documents. Diane did not even testify. The judge drew a negative inference from her absence, meaning her evidence likely would not have helped. Combined with the filings and vendor list, the court placed more weight on the objective paper trail than on verbal explanations. Fifth, the big picture value shift. The companies paid $141,000 for work that increased the value of a home owned solely by Diane, and they received no business consideration in return. The value of Yvon's shares in those companies fell by the same amount, while Diane's property values rose. That link, one patrimony down, another up, fit the legal idea of an indirect transfer. Based on that record, the court concluded that Yvonne indirectly transferred $141,000 of value to Diane within the meaning of Section 160. Diane's appeal was dismissed with cost. Now, the practical side for owners and landlords. You see, use clean separation between company spending and personal assets. Company funds for private residence creates risks on multiple fronts. When a home area truly serves the business, build a paper trail that lives on the balance sheet. A simple written space sharing or lease agreement at the fair market rent, invoices that clearly matches business use and leasehold improvements capitalized in the company's books. You see, keep consistent filings. If the story, this is business space, financial statements and tax returns should reflect that. Ensure independent banking. Corporate accounts serve corporate purposes. Personal costs run through personal accounts. Understand indirect transfers. Paying third parties for spouse's benefit can still count as a transfer for Section 160. Here's how Cloriver CPAs in Burnaby helps. Clients stay clear of this problem. Without legal jargon or tall claims, we set up practical guardrails. Bank rules that keep personal and corporate streams separate. Monthly reviews that flag related party spending early, and simple templates for home office arrangements so leasehold improvements and rent get recorded properly. We also prepare audit-ready folders, supplier lists, invoices, summaries that match the financial statements and the story you would tell under oath. Think of Clorivers as Google Maps for income tax issues. Clear routes, early warnings, and gentle rerouting when plans change. If renovations or mixed-use space are on your roadmap, a quick check-in before the first invoice lands can protect you from expensive surprises later. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Until then, bye.